Talk. Let's go. What's up? How's it going, everyone? It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, and I'm back. It's been a minute, man. I ain't gonna even lie to you, man. I ain't gonna hold you, but I've been sick. I've been busy, but I've definitely been keeping up with everything that's been going on in the NFL. And tonight, I'm going to lay it out all on the line and talk about some things here. We're going to talk about the coaching updates around the National Football League. What coaches went where? Who may go somewhere? Who needs to go there? I'll give you my thoughts as well as some of the hirings that these guys have been. Also, we're going to talk about the divisional round. We're going to recap all of the divisional round games, especially that Baltimore Ravens game, man. I got a lot to say about that. And, of course, I'm going to break down the NFC and the AFC Conference Championship game, so you guys don't want to miss out. Your boy is back just in time, right before the Super Bowl. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. This is NFL Matchups with me, Ryan Flowers. Let's go.
We're going to be here all day, baby. I like this kind of party. I like this kind of party, baby.
What's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing all right. It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, and I'm back with NFL Matchups. It's been a while. Like I said before at the top of the show, it's been a while, but I've definitely been keeping up with all the news and all the other content in regards to the National Football League. So I'm here tonight to lay it all out on the line for you guys today. If you guys are watching for the first time, appreciate you guys for stopping by. Make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to the Grid Network YouTube channel. We're airing live there as well on my Clutch Sports Talk podcast YouTube channel, as well as Facebook Live right now as well. So you guys want to check all those platforms out. We really appreciate that, especially on the Grid Network, because we're doing a lot of great things right now on that particular channel. So, all right, man, let's just get straight into it, man. Let's talk about some coaching changes or coaching updates. A couple weeks ago, obviously, what's his name? Mike Vrabel was hired as the head coach of the New England Patriots after they let Gerard Mayo go after one season. A lot has been said about that. The racial card that's been brought up, especially when we talk about the Raiders coaching updates as well too. But let's just keep it straight to Mike Vrabel. Is it a good fit? We'll have to wait and see. I will say this though, a big piece in all of this is that they got their quarterback. Now, if they can build around that, that's going to be the big question, right? So, New England has not drafted well on the offensive side of the ball in quite some time, if ever. But maybe they think they got the right coach there. Defensively, I think they'll be okay, right? New England has been historically decent. They do figure that out as far as talent is concerned. Did Gerard Mayo get a bad? Did he get a fair shake? Probably not. But he had to know. He had to know that going into this particular season, you didn't have much to work with, right? You drafted a quarterback that you didn't really know much about. Now he ended up starting some games and he looked pretty decent, right? They won a couple games. I believe they won 3 or 4 games, but in the end, I don't think Mayo was the guy. Mike Vrabel is a seasoned coach. Some people may say, he's not a great coach. I beg to differ. I think he won it all? No, of course he hasn't won it all. But what he did in Tennessee for all those years, he kept them pretty competitive. Now, is he going to be the guy that's going to restore the glory back into New England? Remains to be seen. But definitely a pretty good fit. He knows the lay of the land. Now, obviously, he's not going to go with the whole Patriot way. I think that way is done. It's dead. He's going to figure out how to do things his way, but it starts with getting some more talent on the offensive side, and they're going to have to go out and do that. I don't know how they do that, via trade, via draft, via free agency. They need more talent to surround Drake May because he can't do it all on his own. He's going to need some targets. So I think Mike Vrabel understands that, and they will do their best. So another coaching hire more recently, Ben Johnson is the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. I won't say I'm surprised that I guess I kind of saw this one coming. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's where he was probably going to go. Me personally, if I was him, I probably would have maybe looked or kicked the tires more on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And before I get into the Bears, here's why I thought maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars would have been a better fit. Number one, the division is winnable, right? We all see that the Texans are not as formidable as we thought they were. Like, CJ Stroud struggled. Granted, they had some injuries, especially with their wide receivers. Tank Dell probably won't be back next year. Stephon Diggs was hurt. Nico Collins missed some time. The offensive line was in shambles. And then, that's probably the only competition in that division. Okay. Number two, I know I'm going to say this, and some people may say I'm crazy for this, but you have I guess, a decent quarterback, or at least you know what Trevor Lawrence is. Okay. Granted, Caleb Williams, maybe under the right tutelage, maybe that guy for them in Chicago, but we'll talk about that in just a second. And then also on third, you have a stud wide receiver in Brian Thomas that they drafted out of LSU, right? And Travis Etienne obviously didn't have a great year, but they also have Tank Bigsby. Their defense is going to be pretty solid. So I would have thought maybe that would have been the decision. But instead, he stays within the division. He goes to Chicago. He will inherit Caleb Williams. But the Bears overall, it's bigger issues than that. I think organizationally, this has not been a very well-ran program or organization in quite some time. Me personally, I don't think they're as good as what we think they are. On paper, we thought they were going to be good, including myself. I thought, oh wow, they added Keenan Allen, they added Rome Odunze in the draft, right? They've added some other guys, right? Ryan Poles was doing his thing, right? But the offensive line still was pretty crappy. Caleb Williams, although he didn't have the season as far as wins or losses are concerned, he showed some promise. There was a bright spot here and there throughout the season for him. But I think him and DJ Moore, there's something going on with that. And maybe I'm reading into it, but a lot of times I would watch these Chicago Bears games and I would see Caleb Williams make a throw towards DJ Moore. It was underthrown or it was just a bad throw. He'd be looking so super frustrated. I don't think DJ Moore believes in him. I don't know what he's like in the locker room. Obviously, I'm not a Chicago Bear. I'm not in the NFL, but I'm not as excited as for this hire. I thought maybe, to me, the Jags were a better fit, because look at the division. Now the Lions are going to fall back, right? Because they potentially may lose another coordinator in Aaron Glenn, and I think they're going to suffer a little bit of a relapse here, right? I mean, and we'll talk about them in just a second in a divisional recap. But this team, every team is different every year, every season, and as fans, some of us will say, "Oh, they'll be back," but man, you just never know. These windows can be open for a long time, or they can be open for a very short amount of time. I'm not willing to say that the Lions are done and they're cooked, but who knows where their window is going to close, right, or stay open long enough. I don't know. So to me, this is still a very hard division. You still got the Vikings. Now they got questions as well. We'll talk about that here in the offseason. But the Lions are going to be formidable. Green Bay is going to be Green Bay, and then you have the Chicago Bears. So if I'm Ben Johnson, I get it. It's an attractive place to go, right? You got a young quarterback in Caleb Williams. You got some pieces there. Maybe you think you can work with, but they're going to have to fix that offensive line. And that defense was not good down the stretch. So, I'm glad for him. He's got an NFL head coaching job. We'll just see how long he's going to last there. But I know a lot of people was very interested in him. A lot of people were interested in him, but he ended up picking the Chicago Bears. All right, Mike McCarthy, as you know, agreed to part ways with the Dallas Cowboys. He has been reported meeting with the New Orleans Saints. Now, I heard today that the New Orleans Saints have kind of put a kibosh on any other further meetings with any other potential candidates. My best guess is that Mike McCarthy would probably land in New Orleans. I think this is a good fit for him, honestly. He's looking to stay in the league a little bit longer. He's going to go to New Orleans, and he can do things his way and not Jerry's way, which, in his mind, this is what I think would happen, right? When he first got hired by the Cowboys, I remember this vividly in that press conference. It seemed like to me he was just happy to be back in the National Football League, and Jerry Jones was just looking for a name or some pizzazz to hire, right? And Mike understood that in order to kind of get back in the NFL swing of things, he needed to play nice. And I think he took that job knowing that, you know what, man, it is what it is. I'll let Jerry do what Jerry does. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to ride this out. I'm going to do a decent enough job so that way when this situation arises that I'm up for another job, I can say, well, this is what I did. I won 12 plus games this season. I did this. I did that. I won a division championship or crown, whatever case you want to call it, right? And then it got to the point where it's like, well, he was a lame duck coach this year, right? They decided not to extend him. Season ends. They probably say, you know what, it's probably best that, you move on because we're looking for something else. Or maybe Mike was like, I'm good here. I think I'm going to try my chances out in the market and maybe get a job, because there's a bunch of jobs that are still out there, right? You got New Orleans, you got Oakland, not Oakland, Las Vegas, you got Jacksonville, right? These are all other teams that are looking for head coaches. And maybe Mike McCarthy says, you know what, I can do that. I can probably be a guy that can bridge a team until maybe you find somebody else, because he still wants to stay in the league as an NFL head coach. And I think he's deserved that right now. He's had some blunders, et cetera, but overall, he will I crown his tenure at the Dallas Cowboys a success? Yeah, for the most part, given the fact that the Cowboys have not been an NFC Conference Championship game since 1995. He won a bunch of games, never quite got over the hump, which a lot of Cowboys coaches haven't, other than Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer, and that was 30 plus years ago. So he'll get a job. He will definitely get a job out there, so we'll have to wait and see with that. And as far as Aaron Glenn is concerned, a lot of people are talking about him with the Jets, a couple other options, even Dallas as well. I'm not sure about the Raiders, but here's this what I'll say about Aaron Glenn, and especially in regards to the Jets, because I know a lot of people are talking about this. Me personally, and this is just my opinion, right? I do not like defensive-minded head coaches as head coaches. I just don't. The way the game is played, it's a passing league. You need a quarterback. Now, defensive head coaches can get you to a certain point, right? Because some people, well, look at DeMeco Ryans, they made the playoffs. They won a division 2 years in a row, and that's cool. But that might be their ceiling. That might be it for Houston, right? And you got a young quarterback in C.J. Stroud who probably needs to be developed a little bit more by an offensive mind, and I don't think DeMeco Ryans can do that, okay? And it's not even a shot at him. He's not an offensive guy. He's a defensive guy. He played linebacker for several years in the National Football League. So Aaron Glenn, should he go to the Jets? I don't know. If you look at the Jets' previous coaches, I want to say between Todd Bowles, Rex Ryan, there's somebody else in the middle there too. I can't think off the top of my head, but a majority of their coaches within the last couple of years have been defensive-minded coach. Robert Saleh, who was recently fired this year. So why not? And I know they tried Adam Gase, because he was this mastermind out of Miami, and that didn't work out. But I think you need to go the way of a young offensive coach. All right, go get your quarterback, because here's the thing: they need a quarterback either way, right? And it can't be Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so I would temper my expectations on hiring a guy like Aaron Glenn, only because if you really look, and I get it, his defense was hurt. They had a bunch of guys on the injured reserve, but they got cooked, man. They got cooked. And they've been known to be cooked. Maybe this year they were a lot better. And I get it. Aiden Hutchinson out for the whole year. I get that. That does affect your defense, but they got cooked this last weekend. So, does he fit in other places? If you have a quarterback, if you have an established quarterback, and off the top of my head, maybe the Saints, I guess. I don't know. I don't know, because Derek Carr, it seems like he's going to be back there in New Orleans. So, guys like that, it sounds great. I think he's more inclined to stay in Detroit than to leave. We all knew Ben Johnson was out of there. He was gone. He was gone. So, but other than that, I don't think Aaron Glenn is going to be a head coach this upcoming season. Maybe if he puts out another really solid defense next year, he might get a chance. But right now, I think teams are more inclined to go out and get an offensive guy, one of these little stud offensive coordinators from one of these teams, or even a college guy. But as for now, I don't see him making a move to be a head coach. And I get it. Dan Campbell's going to give him praise. That's his guy. I get it. But me personally, I'm not looking at defensive coaches. I want an offensive-minded coach, and I'm going to go get me a really good defensive coordinator and delegate that to them, like a Steve Spagnuolo. I know he might be in the market for one of these jobs too, but again, another defensive guy. They're great. Defensive coordinators are great at what they do, but when you give them the head coaching job, it's like they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. Okay, so especially when you start, getting in that head coaching realm. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. All right. So those are my coaching updates, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let's talk about the divisional round, man. Let's recap that. Let's start with the AFC. We'll start first with the Chiefs and the Texans. Now, a lot was said about this particular game, especially with the referees. And I get it. And I know why the Chiefs get a lot of hate, especially because of how the referees be refereeing their games. There was a bunch of questionable calls there that you don't see other quarterbacks get. And this is what I say, man. Like, are they lucky? Yes, to a certain extent, right? But the Chiefs are also good too, man. Like, and I get it. I know some of these calls don't look great, and it's definitely in their favor. But at the end of the day, you still got to go and beat them, right? The Texans still had a bunch of chances. They had a bunch of missed opportunities. And when you leave it in the hands of the referees, of course, they're not going to give you the go-ahead, right? So I'm not saying it's right. That's just the way it is. That's life, okay? I still believe in the Chiefs still. A lot of people don't think that they have a chance of three-peating. I know they have not looked dominant at all this year at any given point. But for some reason, I just can't bet against them. So you already know who my Super Bowl prediction, who my pick is, just by that statement alone. So, but the Texans itself, listen, they're still a young team. They're still growing. CJ Stroud missing a lot of talent on that other side of the ball, on the offensive side of things. Do I think they'll be back? Yeah, because their division is pretty weak, right? They'll be in the mix. They'll figure some things out. But when you have a team like the Chiefs, and you have a chance to strike a death blow, you better take it, because if not, Patrick Mahomes will do what he does, and he'll end up winning that game somehow, some way. Now, we'll preview the AFC Conference Championship game, but in a microcosm, that game was very close, right? The Texans had their chances, but deep down in my mind, I knew that the Texans were not going to win that game. They just weren't. I mean, what? How many times did CJ Stroud get sacked? Like 9-10 times. Right? So, when you can't protect the quarterback, and that's one thing about, let me step back. Let me tell you about the Chiefs itself. This is what makes them so great, is that they've had the ability to evolve. Okay. They were once this powerhouse offensive juggernaut, right? When they had Tyreek Hill, and it was just like a cheat code, right? He leaves, they still win two Super Bowls, but the offense changes. It's wide receiver committee, right? Running back committee. Travis Kelce shows up in the playoffs, and that's how and their defense is solid. I don't care what you say about them, whether the refs are cheating or not. That defense, that front four that they have, man, come on. Between Chris Jones, I forgot, my mind slips of the other guy that had like 3 sacks the other day against Karlaftis, I think his name is. Like, come on. When you get pressure on the quarterback, your defense is going to be way better. So that's and that's why you can never keep them out of game. You can't, because their defense will keep them in it just enough, right? And that's what happened in the Texans game. The game was close, but at no point did I feel like any pressure from the Texans to win that game. So we'll see. All right, let's talk about the I'll say that one for last, right? we'll talk about the Detroit Lions and the Washington Commanders. What a letdown that was. Like, literally, they really shit the bed. I mean, Lions fans, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Jared Goff was horrible in that game. They couldn't get anything going. But this is what you got to remember about the Washington Commanders, right? This is how you know you have a bunch of people that don't really watch football. They just kind of, they listen to names. They maybe go on some of these podcasts, and they really they get bits and pieces, right? Because they don't really know. I watch a lot of these teams. I may not be an expert on a lot of these teams, but I know enough, right? And when you look at the roster for the Washington Commanders, they got some dogs on that team, man. Besides, and I know a lot of it rests on Jaden Daniels, but when you really peel back the layers, offensively, Scary Terry is one of the better wide receivers in the National Football League. He don't get a lot of publicity. Why? Because he was playing with crappy quarterbacks the last couple of years, right? Austin Eckler was a huge pickup. Ask the Chargers if they missed him, right? they're in Cancun. Not saying that he would have helped them win their playoff game, but he's a big piece. He helps them out. Brian Robinson Sr., he is a quiet, really solid running back. Jeremy Nichols. They got some dudes back there. Offensive line, led by Tyler Biadasz, who once was a Cowboy. He's a center. He anchors that offensive line. Okay, you look on the defensive side of things. Bobby Wagner can still play. Now, is he Bobby Wagner of the Legion of Boom? No. But the brother can still play. What's another kid I like? Frankie Louvu, the kid they drafted, I believe, out of Washington. Baller. Okay? They got some guy, a kid. I think they drafted a kid out of Michigan, a safety, Sandstrom, rookie. They got some dudes. Adding Marshawn Lattimore. A lot of people forgot about that trade, right? Because he was hurt when they traded him. But Marshawn Lattimore is a really good, valuable piece on that defense. And then you put that all together with Dan Quinn and his ability to call a defensive game. Come on, man. Like, I'm surprised of how badly they beat the Lions. The Lions, listen, after the Washington Commanders had won that game against the week before, right? Who they play? It was who they played? Oh, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're playing with house money at that point. Because guess what? No one expects them to be there. No one expected them to be in that game with Detroit, and they did. So when you look at the Detroit side of things, listen, Jared Goff played bad. You start to question, is he going to be the guy moving forward, right? Are they going to have to start looking at a younger quarterback? Because they got talent. You got Sonic and Knuckles there. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got Jameis Williams. You got what's the kid's name? Sam Laporta. You got dudes on the offensive side of things. Defensively, they got bit by the injury bug really bad, right? But they were not prepared for that game. And this is the one thing about Dan Campbell that I question, right? I know he's done a phenomenal job. He's turned things around in Detroit. He's got them relevant. But when it comes to X's and O's and being ready, these cheerleader, rah kind of guys, they always get beat, man. They always do. And I could be wrong. Right? But this team was not prepared to win. They weren't. Washington was ready to go. And we saw the outcome. Okay. So kudos to them. All right. The other game there, we had the who else was out there? The I'm drawing a blank here. Rams and Philadelphia Eagles. That game to me was close too. Honestly, if it wasn't for those weather conditions, I think the Rams might have got them. Now, granted, Philly is still a really dangerous team, but they're going to go as far as Saquon Barkley is going to take them, because Jalen Hurts is not going to be the guy to lead them to promised land. And I know Eagles fans, they believe that too. They may not want to say that. Some of them will, because some of them are honest. But if somehow, some way, someone slows Saquon Barkley down, they're cooked. I don't care who you got at wide receiver. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, fantastic players. But Jalen Hurts is not the guy. Could be a combination. He's regressed. Could be a combination of Kellen Moore's play calling in the playoffs, right? I've seen that as a Cowboys fan, right? So not even hating on Philly, because I think they're a good team, especially when Saquon gets going. And that's the reason why they won that game the other night. Saquon, he figured out a way, right? Obviously, the conditions were more favorable for them running the ball. Turnovers, some untimely turnovers by the Rams. Kyron Williams fumbling, Matthew Stafford. But the Rams, I thought, had a really good chance of winning that game, and they almost pulled it out in the end. Honestly, if you think about it, so shout out to the Rams too. I mean, they didn't get the result that they wanted, but Philly, I think, right now, I think Vegas, they have them as the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. I don't know about that. I don't think so. But again, it's a big if. If Saquon can get things going, they're going to be a tough matchup. So, but the Rams in itself, back to the Rams. I mean, listen, you got to think about where they started, man. All the injuries that they had this year, especially beginning of the year, and to battle back and win that division, right? And then have a performance of a lifetime against the Minnesota Vikings in the wild card round, right? So there's something to build upon there. Now they're gonna have some questions in the offseason about some guys, like especially Cooper Kupp, who literally just fell off the map, man. Like, he got hurt early in this year and he was never the same ever again. Like, it's now Puka Nakua's team on the offense. Kyron Williams is a stud in the making, right? Matthew Stafford, that's another guy. Maybe you go one more year with him and see what happens with him. But he's a guy they're going to have to start looking at too as well. But overall, that's a successful season for the LA Rams at the end of the day. You came this close to beating the Philadelphia Eagles on the road in a blizzard, mind you, right? If I'm Philly, I'm not feeling that great. Honestly, I'm really not. I'm really not. The only thing is that you got, we'll talk about this here in just a second, but I'm not feeling that great. So, and then finally, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. I'll start with the Bills. Like the Chiefs, they figured out a way to evolve themselves, right? Josh Allen is still the key cog for them. I'm not going to deny that. He's still the guy, okay? But they've established a running game. Look, think about this. They didn't really target any wide receivers this past weekend. You got Amari Cooper. I think Max Hollins maybe got like 3 targets. Amari Cooper, I think, had 1 catch, if that. I don't even remember him. It was more so feed your running back and let Josh Allen do his thing. And they still beat the Ravens that way. Okay. This defense has gotten better than people have known about. I think people forgot that this defense was okay, but they've tightened up. They've tightened up, right? And shout out to Sean McDermott. I think he's one of the best coaches in the National Football League. He is a defensive-minded coach. I will say that. Okay? I will say that. But what they've been able to do with their offensive coordinator and Joe Brady is be able to adapt. And usually the best teams do, right? Even when you go back to New England, though, the Patriots, right? What made New England so great is that they weren't the same team at week in and week out. What I mean by that is that they are able to change with the climate, right? Buffalo Bills came into this game this weekend against the Ravens, you know what, thinking, well, we just have to run the ball, right? The conditions are going to be pretty bad, which they were pretty favorable, right? But they decided we're going to run this football and we're not going to turn the ball over. That's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. Now, I'll talk about their chances here in the AFC Conference Championship, but let's talk about the other team, the Baltimore Ravens. And I'll start here. Over the last couple of years, I've gotten a lot of hate about Lamar Jackson. And I'll say this. This one was not all on him. Now, he had that really bad fumble that led to a touchdown, right? Von Miller picked it up, scooped it up, almost got it in, and then eventually the Bills ended up punching it in. And then he had like this weird interception too that I don't know. I don't know if it was miscommunication and he overthrew the guy. I don't know, right? But for the most part, he kept his team in the game. I am not a huge Lamar Jackson fan as far as the point of like, I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. I think he's one of the most exciting, the most athletic quarterback we have in the National Football League, right? And right now it just seems that he is only good for the regular season. Now, he'll probably end up winning the MVP again, but at the end of the day, and I made this statement, I believe it was not this year or last year. I don't remember. It's a little hazy. But what I said was, you sign him to this deal, which is good, and you got to sign your quarterback. But you got to have to winning. You got to start winning conference championships or getting to the Super Bowl, and they haven't done that. They haven't done that, and I don't know how much longer their window is going to stay open. Obviously, Lamar, with a player like Lamar Jackson, he extends it. He extends the life shelf a little bit more, right? Because he is dynamic, right? There's no debating that. I don't think he's a scrub. I don't think he's terrible. He just is what he is, and I think that's what the Ravens are. Like when it comes down to it, they don't play their best when they need to. Okay. It's one thing to beat up on somebody week 5 of the National Football League season, right? But when you're in a pressure-packed situation, you expect the Baltimore Ravens to fold. Now, they were a favorite to win this game. And in my mind, I was like, no, I'm picking the Bills to win. Because why? The Bills have shown me they can go and win a big game, right? Baltimore Ravens haven't shown me that, especially in the playoffs. So this loss was not all on Lamar Jackson. Mark Andrews, for sure, has his hand in the pot there too, dropping the potential tying 2-point conversion, fumbling late in that game, I believe with 9 minutes as they were driving after a beautiful throw was made by Lamar Jackson, right? Defense couldn't get off the field. They couldn't stop Josh Allen that running attack. I don't know what you do. Some suggested maybe you get rid of John Harbaugh, excuse me. I don't know if that's the move either, right? But something has to change, right? Because they keep getting in the way of themselves. And this is a comment made by Ben Cornett a couple minutes ago. He says, by the way, the Ravens beat the Ravens this past weekend. Very disappointed to see that again out of them. Yeah, very disappointing. But they just don't have that championship DNA. And that's what the Chiefs do. That's what the Patriots do or did have. When I look at the Baltimore Ravens, I don't see that championship. They were one of the most penalized teams in the National Football League, right? I don't know how many mistakes, turnovers they had this year, but to me, when you have penalties like that, that means you make a lot of mistakes. And they made a lot of mistakes this past weekend. And now they're packing their bags, getting ready for Cancun. So, or wherever the hell they're going. So there you have it. All right. Before we get up out of here, let's talk about the NFC Conference Championship game. We got Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders. It's an NFC East affair here. I know Jerry Jones. Oh well, he probably isn't. I think the fans care more. They're more sick about it than he is because Jerry Jones can care less. Because in Jerry Jones's world, he's the best GM there is in the National Football League in history. But obviously, that's not the case. All right. Obviously, Philadelphia is going to be favored, as they should be. They are the better team on paper. But something in my gut tells me that Jaden Daniels the story is just starting to begin for him. I think they have a really good opportunity of pushing the Eagles. The game plan has got to be stop Saquon Barkley, and you force Jalen Hurts to beat you because he hasn't played that well at all this year, at all. So. Now, stopping Saquon Barkley is easier said than done. A lot of teams can't. It's the reason why the man rushed for over 2,000 yards. Okay? But if anyone knows this team better than anybody, it's Dan Quinn. Why? Because two points. 2 points of conjecture here. Coached against them twice a year while as a defensive coordinator. He knows especially he knows Saquon. Okay? Another thing, you don't think he ever practiced against Kellen Moore when they go teams, ones-on-ones? Now, the case can be made that, Kellen Moore also will know Dan Quinn. Okay? Yeah, but let's just be real. We don't trust no one. Who really trusts Kellen Moore? Who really trusts Kellen Moore with the play calling? Like, really? I don't think Eagles fans trust that fool. Right? They believe in Saquon Barkley more than anything at this point. So, and what we've learned with the Washington, and I stated this before, they got some dudes on that team, man. You don't think those Bobby Wagner doesn't have a championship mentality, the caliber? They're going to be ready to go. This game is going to be close. I don't know what the line is. I think it opened up at like 4.5, maybe 5. But this game is going to be a lot closer. This is going to boil down to whoever has the ball last, I think. I'm not going to give any predictions because I'm still kind of doing some research on that. Maybe I'll pump out a video later on this week, right? But this is going to be a good game. This is going to be a really good game. So tune in on that one. All right. And as far as the AFC Championship game is concerned, Kansas City, and Buffalo, I mean, you can't write this stuff up, man. You can't write it up. So we all know what happened earlier this year. Kansas City went into Orchard Park. They got the loss. But when watching that game, I was like, you know what? They lost that game, but it wasn't like Buffalo just dominated them overall. Kansas City probably felt, you know what, play here, play there. We probably win that game, right? Or make it a little bit closer than what it really was, right? And the good thing is that Kansas City is at home. And we know Kansas City is very tough to beat. They're 3-0 against the Buffalo Bills in most recent history, right? So you throw out the regular season games because it's different now. It's a totally different ball game now. You can't look at regular season because teams aren't playing the same way. They're just not. Now, I think it's going to be a stiffer test this time around for the Kansas City Chiefs, but because Buffalo does present a problem because Josh Allen is a difference maker. Okay. Now, he probably won't win the MVP. I think Lamar will get it. But if I had a vote, I'm probably going with Josh Allen because you look at what he has to throw to, right? I get it. Amari Cooper is pretty solid, I guess, but they don't even utilize the guy, right? They don't even utilize him. You know, he's just a different guy, man. And what I've noticed about him too, he hasn't turned the ball over a lot either. And I think that's really big, helping them win a lot of games, especially crucial games. So weather, I don't think it's going to be a factor. They're used to playing in the cold. Kansas City used to playing in the cold. But this is going to be also good. I mean, honestly, man, really, outside of maybe the Ravens and Chiefs making it, that would have been a really good one too, because you had a rematch of last year's conference championship game. You can't really ask for a better conference championship game, especially from the AFC, right? Detroit and Philly would have been a good one too. Obviously 1 and 2, right? That's all the way it goes. But Detroit did not earn the right to be there, you know. they got outplayed. They got outclassed. So it's going to be a very, very good weekend, I think. These games are going to boil down to probably a field goal or two. I think that's in my opinion. I'm not going to give any scores yet. I'm going to kind of go through my research process here, and I'm going to give you guys maybe a quick video on maybe Friday or so going into the game. So we'll have to wait and see. So, but there you have it, man. It's good to be back. I'll probably be back I'll probably be back next week. I probably won't be able to commit to Sunday, NFL Sunday wake up. I'm just be honest with you. But definitely for sure, we'll have to recap everything that took place over the weekend because it's going to be a good one. And there's one last thing I was thinking about this too. Someone was talking to me about the Cowboys because I always got to talk about some Cowboys on here, man. Listen, Cowboys are done, right? Cowboys fans that are out there, because I retired. I am no longer a Cowboys fan like that. Like, I may support them from afar, but I'm done with these clowns. This team, well, when you look at everything else, man, how some teams have hit rock bottom, rebuilt themselves, and are doing something. Look at Washington. They've been the doormat for quite some time. And just in 2 years in new ownership, look what happens. Totally different team. Mind you, got the Cowboys. So I don't want to hear about anything about, the Cowboys should go get this guy. The Cowboys should draft this guy. It doesn't matter, folks. Just get it through your thick skulls. Unless Jerry Jones is no longer the owner and the Jones family is not a part of this organization, the Cowboys will never be good again. They'll be relevant, but they'll never be what the Eagles are, what the Chiefs are. Steady championship contending teams, period. So I'm not going to watch any videos on, they should go draft this kid out of such and such, or they should go get this coach. It don't matter, because whoever he picks as a coach, it's going to be a guy that's a yes man anyway. So I never thought Bill Belichick is going to come back and coach the Cowboys. Never Mike Vrabel, not even Ben Johnson. This is not a good job. Okay. Whether you believe it or not, and the Cowboy fans that believe this is a good job, they're delusional. They're delusional. And they're just as bad as the owner. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys job is not a good job. Period. What makes it good? Tell me, please, before I go, let me know in the comment section. What makes the Dallas Cowboys a good job? I'll wait for a couple moments, because you can't tell me what makes it good. Is it the quarterback? And I like Dak, but I'm not a fan of him like that anymore, right? You have no offensive line. I mean, again, it just starts with the offense. I mean, it starts with the owner from the top down. So that in itself does not make this an attractive job. Hell, I'd rather coach the New Orleans Saints, because you know why? If you go there, you're going to be given the keys to do what you need to get done, right? They're going to figure it out, okay? But Dallas Cowboys, nah. You're going to have your owner in a press conference about 5 minutes after the game, talking about what he's going to do next, and then he's going to follow up with the radio show slot the next day, right? And the radio show host can't even ask him the real hard questions, right? Because why? The guy's senile. So, again, it's not a great job. There are better jobs. Hell, the Jacksonville Jaguars is a better job. So, no one said anything in the comments about the Cowboys being a good job, because you can't. And there's only 3 people in there anyway. But shout out to my people out there like Ben. We got my boys Chris, CJ Smooth showing off the abs. I told that brother to change that picture, bro. We got guys watching this show. I don't want nobody thinking I'm zesty out here. But anyway, but yeah, please elaborate. Please let me know if the Cowboys is a good job, because it ain't. It just isn't. So, all right. Well, that's all I got, man. It was good to be back. I'll be back next week for NFL matchups on next week, Tuesday, around the same time, 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, 6:30 Eastern. If you guys ain't doing nothing, man, in just under an hour, we got the 5 o'clock spot here on the Grid Network. Make sure you guys check that out. The guys are cooking up something there. I'm pretty sure that they're going to have a good time there tonight. So other than that, man, I had to get on here and just kind of, because people thought I was dead. Like, all right, I ain't dead. I've been in the cut, man. I've been in the cut. Hey, Shelly, I've been in the cut doing my thing, man. Being busy, but I had to come out here and things are falling around me right now. But I had to come out here real quick and let you guys know I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm making content a little bit more often. So, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's all I got, man. Enjoy conference championship weekend, and I'll be back next week. This is your boy, Ryan Flowers. Like I always say, never settle till the work is done. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.